Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech live on YouTube. It feels good to say that. I apologize for the lack of activity lately. In case you're unaware, basically, I'm having a crazy busy week over on Tailosive EV. I was actually uploading two videos simultaneously right before. Basically, we're getting Cybertruck deliveries tomorrow, and there's some last-minute leaks for that. And I also just a couple days ago got to check out my favorite company ever, like their prototype, and I got to interview the CEO, their chief of design. We did these huge interviews. We drove around their latest prototype, and we did a factory tour. And there's basically like 2.5 hours worth of footage that I have to edit. So it's been very hectic, very busy over on Tailosive EV. But I just wanted to do a quick little stream. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stream for the full length of the, you guys are used to me streaming 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. This will probably be a bit of a shorter stream because, as you can tell, I'm not at home right now. I'm on a trip visiting some friends. So on top of all of the busyness, we're also traveling. I'm outside of California. I'll just say that much. And I'm not going to the Cybertruck event. Sorry. I know a lot of you wanted to, but I couldn't. I didn't get an invite, and Tesla wouldn't let me in anyway. So it's been a hectic time, but I haven't forgot about Tailosive Tech, the home channel, the one so many of you guys found me on. And honestly, I'm kind of okay with the dormant activity because there hasn't been too much news as of late, except for a news story that dropped yesterday, which was kind of a big deal, kind of a shocker to me. But Apple issued a statement through Wall Street Journal and to NBC, I believe. I've got the article pulled up here so we can talk about it. But basically, they've announced that they're ending the partnership with Goldman Sachs, and they plan to stop working with them within the next 12 to 15 months. So it's not instant. I guess this gives everybody time to realize that, okay, this partnership is going to end. For those who don't know, Goldman Sachs is basically the bank that handled all of the back end of the Apple Card. So if you're handling the transactions, that's through them. If you're getting payouts, that's through them. Apple basically just was the designer for the wallet app and the rewards, and it's powered through your Apple ID. So basically, Apple designed and was responsible for everything that you saw and interacted with, whereas Goldman Sachs did everything on the back end. And because they've announced they're dissolving their partnership, it's not entirely sure what the future of the Apple Card will be. But the quote here that kind of scares me, because I really like the Apple Card and I'm using the Apple Card savings account right now and making a pretty good amount of interest off it, I must say. They said, "We're focused on providing an incredible experience for our customers. The award-winning Apple Card has seen great reception from consumers and will continue to innovate and deliver the best tools and services for them." But yeah, up here they're saying this will include the Apple Card and the Apple Savings account. So there's a few different avenues they could go with this. I mean, there is a potential, I think, with this kind of wording. There is a chance that they may scrap the Apple Card entirely. There's a few different ways they could do that. I mean, they probably have to make a formal announcement well in advance. I don't think we'll just wake up one day and all of our credit cards will stop working. It would probably be in advance, like maybe end of next year, because they said 12 to 18 months, right? They gave themselves some time, or 15 months. So they could just say, okay, we're going to turn off applications for the Apple Card maybe in 2024. So you're not able to get an Apple Card if you don't have one already. And then they'll say that basically it's going to stop working at the end of 2024. So you can use it and enjoy the perks and enjoy the rewards until then. But then 2025 comes around, it'll just kind of, they'll tell you, hey, you got a action required. You'll get those emails and they'll say, like, make sure that you take all of your money out of the Apple Card savings account because it's going to be shut down. And we're going to have to eventually force you to do a payout. I guess if someone was completely inactive and wasn't responding to the emails and wasn't transferring the funds elsewhere, then they could always just send you a check in the mail. They have your business address on, they have your home address on file for the billing info anyway. So they could say, okay, any remaining balance, we're just going to either wire to the bank account you have on file, or if you don't wire it from your bank account, then we're just going to send you a check in the mail. I know it's a bummer because the Apple Card and savings account are so great, but I think that's the problem, is that Goldman Sachs was reportedly losing a crap ton of money on this partnership, which I did not understand at all. I was like, how is this good for the bank? It's obviously great for the consumers, which is why I was so happy to use it, because I was like, hey, I'm getting a great credit card, there's no fees, and they give you daily cash back. And after I've used several other credit cards now outside of the Apple Card, and I got to admit, they all kind of suck. I mean, sure, there's better rewards out there. You'll find cards that give you 4% back on gas or EV charging, or 5% back on Amazon, and those are great perks. But just like the billing and the management, and usually a lot of credit cards, they build up your rewards, but you can't redeem them all at once, and you have to wait sometimes months or even a year before you actually get the rewards or that cash back paid out. And the Apple Card was just so seamless, so simple. There was no gimmicks, there was no point system. It was just so simple that and it was also, I think the bigger problem with the Apple Card was that, for the bank, not for the consumer, but the bigger problem was that it made it painfully hard to miss a payment. It was so transparent. It was so easy to just be like, hey, this is how much you got to pay. You'll get an interest charge on this date, and you get a push notification that says, hey, make sure to pay it off by this time. It's so transparent. Whereas other credit cards usually make it a lot more complicated to pay off, and a lot easier basically for you to miss a payment, and then you got to pay it with interest, and that's how the credit card makes their money. So it's not necessarily good for the bank, because they're loaning out all this money for people using credit cards, and they're not getting anything in return, because everybody who uses the Apple Card understands how to avoid the interest charges. It builds their credit, they get the rewards, and basically, just like it has been for me, it's just free money. This thing on average has been making me I want to say like $20 to $30 a month just through cash back. And then the savings account doubled up on that. So now it's probably more like I'm making $60 to $70 in rewards plus interest just by using the Apple Card and the high interest savings account. And they're not getting anything out of me. I'm not paying to use those services. Best case scenario, they're able to loan out the money that I store in my high interest savings account, and they make some money by loaning those out. But the interest rates are kind of crazy high right now, and there's less and less people able to buy in the real estate market, and they're probably not able to make as much because there's less people qualifying for those loans. Hey, speaking of money, thank you, J Money, for supporting Tailosive Tech Plus. MacBook Air or M3 MacBook Pro for college student. That's not specific enough, but given the information you provided, college student usually means on a budget, in which case I'll say MacBook Air. You can find M1 MacBook Airs on Best Buy and Amazon for like $700 or less. It's an incredible deal, and it's a great laptop. Anyway, my understanding is that they are paying out the rewards and saving interest to the customers and are not making it up through interest payments from the customers like most banks. Correct. There's definitely a way to profitably have a credit card and profitably have savings accounts and stuff, but the deals Apple worked out with them, honestly, it was kind of genius on Apple's end. The more you look at the contracts and how they actually worked, like I talked about recently, I was very tempted to switch to the Pixel 8. I loved the Pixel 8. I thought the camera quality was great. I loved the price. The display was fantastic. The button layout and the faster USB-C port, great charging. I love that phone, but honestly, one of the hardest parts about me making the switch to Android that I really couldn't jump, it was not iMessage. Everyone makes that out to be a bigger deal than I think it really is. And it was not AirDrop. I had workarounds for AirDrop. It wasn't that big a deal. But the really hard one to justify leaving Apple for was the Wallet app, because I use the Apple Card, I use the high interest savings account, And there was no way to access that if I switched to an Android phone. I basically would have to keep an iPhone around just to do my banking because there's no wallet app on Android that supports all the iOS stuff, and I can't even access all of that stuff on the web. So I couldn't even go to my Mac and do my high interest savings account management or do my Apple Card management with the transactions and stuff. There's a basic bare bones Apple Card website, but all it really does is let you pay it off. It doesn't show you the transactions. It doesn't give you the settings of the card. There's no access to the savings account at all, which is kind of important. You want to be able to access your savings account, right? So there was really just, that was kind of the biggest hurdle for me. I was like, I can't jump over. I'd have to switch my bank accounts, switch credit cards, and I know that the bank accounts and the high interest savings and the credit cards that I access on Android are not going to be as clean and as simple and as intuitive as they are on the wallet app for iOS. So that was a big hurdle. So Apple was genius for designing this Apple Card system because they knew how hard it was to switch credit cards and to switch banks, and they roped it into iOS. So if you want to switch away from iOS now, it basically affects your credit score, and it becomes much, much harder to switch. And Apple was not on the line, or Apple didn't have to loan out the money themselves. Financially, they lost nothing. They probably gained a lot of interest because they got a lot of people signing up for credit cards and maybe buying more Apple products because they knew they would get 3% back. But Goldman Sachs was the one on the hook for all of those expenses. So honestly, I don't really know why Goldman agreed to it. I think any bank that kind of agrees to the current terms was kind of was kind of clueless. I think they were probably trying to partner with Apple for the brand power. They just thought it would sound cool. We partnered with Apple. Apple's the most valuable company. But Apple kind of screwed them over. I gotta admit, like, Goldman Sachs lost out on billions and billions of dollars. And they essentially thought, oh, well, if we're working with Apple, that's all that matters. It's just street cred. It looks good. Doesn't matter if we lose money on the partnership. But then years and years go by and they're like, holy crap, we are losing a ton of money on this partnership. So there's a few potential scenarios Apple could go with now. Dylan White says he has a watch band that he financed through the Apple Card. What? Why? My Apple Card has gone 2 months without me making a payment. Well, that's good. Hopefully you don't get interest charges, but yeah, the Apple Card's very chill about that, I've noticed. Let's see. Rest in peace, Apple Card and Apple Card users. Astronomical credit scores. Legally, if you don't claim the money within a certain time frame, 90 days or 1 year, you forfeit the money and they keep it. Oh, then they're probably hoping you do that. Goldman Sachs executives have been complaining about losing money on Apple Card for months. I'm only surprised it took them so long. Yeah, they're probably stuck in some kind of agreement where they can't back out within a certain time frame, and Goldman is probably trying to back out as soon as they can because it's costing them so much. But there's a few possibilities. For one, I know some people have suggested it. Apple becomes a bank, so they have a ton of cash, obviously. It's not like Goldman Sachs has some inherent advantage that, oh, we know how to be a bank, but Apple does not. Sure, there's probably some legal processes Apple would have to jump through, but Apple's got a ton of money. They could become their own bank. They could just skip Goldman Sachs or skip some other bank, and they're the ones loaning out the money. They're the ones paying for all the fees and whatnot and paying out the interest. But I don't think that's very likely because, as Goldman Sachs has proven, at least with the Apple Card's current perks and current offerings, it's not profitable. It's great for us. It's great for the users because we're getting all this cash back and making all this money for free. But of course, someone else is losing out on money if you're getting free money. So Apple would basically start missing out on billions and billions of dollars. And they would have to ask themselves, is the Apple Card as a feature, as like a nail in the Apple ecosystem that kind of keeps you planted, like, oh, I don't want to switch to Android because I'm going to miss out on my iOS wallet app. Do they think that's worth losing out on billions of years just to maintain market share and to keep people from considering Android? I don't think they will personally. Apple becoming a bank sounds a little. I want them to. Don't get me wrong. I would love to just skip Wells Fargo and Chase and all those guys and just have all my money show up in my Apple account. If they're honestly really close. They have a credit card. They basically have a debit card with a cash card. You could easily convert that into a debit card. They have a savings account. All they really need is a checking account. If they had a checking account, that you could basically, the only thing you can't do right now with Apple's financial services, I can't pay off my Apple card with the savings account, which sounds like a very simple, it should be possible, right? If your Apple card has $100 on it and you've got $1,000 in your savings account, why can't you pay off the Apple card with that savings account? Well, savings accounts don't move money as quickly, and they kind of they're meant more for building interest than they are paying for things. So if you could tie the Apple Pay cash account, which is like a Visa debit card. I have it because you're required to have it with the credit card, but I don't use it for anything. Um, but yeah, basically this card, the one that's reflective, you can kind of see it. Um, just attach that to a checking account, and then you could literally have your paychecks go to that checking account, pay off the Apple card with that, and then Apple becomes their own bank. There's no more Goldman Sachs partnership. They probably still use MasterCard for acceptance. I don't think they would go that far to try to replace Visa or MasterCard, but they could become their own bank, which I think would be cool, but it's just a little bit out there for them. Banks usually have to make a lot of money through loaning out. So if Apple started like loaning out huge mortgage loans and that kind of thing, yeah, it'd be kind of out there for their market for what they're kind of used to. It's not impossible, but I don't think they will. The other possibility that's been rumored for a while now, and I think Apple's probably been aware of this, is that they're looking for another bank to partner with. American Express was high on the list of possibilities. That was debated, I think, and I guess my issue with it is what we've proven with Goldman Sachs is that it's super expensive to hold this credit card, at least with its current offerings. So while yes, it may be possible for Apple to partner with Amex, I don't think it will have the same perks. I think they're going to have to change it in some way. Amex is very profitable credit card business, but the credit cards at Amex do not work the same way the Apple Card does. The Apple Card's very simple, very basic. It's just cash back. They just send you the money the next day after you made the transaction. They keep it simple, and obviously that's not super profitable. So with Amex, they have more of a point system where they're trying to kind of game the spender, the person with the credit card. They're trying to trick you basically into buying more things. Most of the time, what Amex is great for is travel, which is very smart on Amex's part because they know that people who are traveling tend to spend more. So basically with the Amex card, they get a tiny piece of that transaction every time you spend. So the more money you spend with Amex, the more money the bank makes. And they offer all kinds of points and perks for like, oh, you can get discounts on flights, you can get discounts on Ubers and hotels, because they know that when you're traveling, you're more likely to be spending large amounts of money. You got to buy tickets, you got to buy Ubers, you got to buy more food. Usually when people are traveling, they buy more expensive food, or they buy merchandise and souvenirs and that kind of thing. So their whole points business, which is a lot more gimmicky, well, I mean, it's standard for the credit card industry, but it's a lot more manipulative basically than the Apple Card is, which is just straight cash. Apple Card doesn't have any point systems, or hey, you can use your points here and they'll stretch further, but the point system that all credit cards do is kind of trying to persuade you into buying certain things that you probably wouldn't have bought without those points. So it's like I get a good deal on it, but it kind of makes me go out of my way sometimes with my spending habits. Whereas the Apple Card is not really manipulative because it's just like, well, you buy this, you get the money, you get 3% back, or you get 2% back. And that's it. And because it's likely not a lot of people's only credit card, they only use the Apple Card on a few things, like when they buy an Apple product. Okay, I bought a new iPhone, I get 3% back, done. Okay, this place supports Apple Pay, I'll do 2% back here. And it's just daily cash. It comes right back. It's not trying to manipulate you into buying certain things, and they can kind of steer your spending a bit more with a rewards program. So if the Apple Card does stick around, it will probably have to change its perks. We may not like the perks as much. That's basically what I'm just trying to warn you all, is that it may not be sustainable for them to continue offering these perks. Maybe if it does turn into a point system that's a bit more manipulative and tries to get you to spend in certain ways, Apple might decide this is just too weird. Let's just not do it. They said in the article with the statement they issued that, okay, well, we want this to be like, we still want to pursue innovative and clever financing terms. The way I took that is, okay, they might just tell everybody to use Apple Pay Later. Okay, if you want to finance something, just use Apple Pay Later. That's separate from Goldman Sachs. That can work independently. But I got to admit, they've been very light on the marketing of the Apple Card, at least on the website. All of the pictures of the Apple Card are very old. They don't seem very passionate about it. Let's see. If I go to the Apple Card section here, I can show you what I'm talking about. Oh, okay. This one actually has a newer iPhone. I was looking everywhere for an Apple Card with Dynamic Island, and I couldn't find it, but now they finally put it there. They put an iPhone 15 on there. But wherever else I was looking for the Apple Card, it kept just showing like iPhone 11 Pros and stuff from a while back. But yeah, it's too good to last, I'm afraid. They also would have to deal with a bunch of regulations they may not be equipped to handle. That's true legally. There's a bunch of stuff you got to do if you become an official bank, which they might not feel comfortable with. Amex and Discover are their own card issuers, so it's possible Apple replaces MasterCard. Nothing's impossible business-wise. It's not like I just don't think it makes sense because there's still a bunch of places that only take Visa and a bunch of places that take MasterCard. And trying to get Apple adoption at all those places would probably be kind of annoying, at least for the physical credit card. Obviously, if they support Apple Pay, then that's one thing. But I've been to places like what I'm thinking of as Costco, which is where a lot of people spend a ton of money because they get all their groceries and food there. They support Apple Pay, but they don't support MasterCard, which is part of the reason I ended up getting my current Citi card, was because we go to Costco a lot. And the Costco card was not much more, is basically the same price as just having a Costco membership, and they only take Visas there, and the Apple Card is based on MasterCard. So I couldn't use my Apple Card when I went to Costco. I can use Apple Pay, but I have to use it with the Citi card, not the Apple Card, which is, yeah, it would be a big headache to try to come up with another standard on top of Visa and MasterCard. I love getting cash back from subscriptions, even though it's like cents, it eventually adds up. Well, it's free money if as long as you don't hold a balance on it, as long as you don't pay interest on what you finance, then yeah, it's basically just free rewards, and it helps kind of build your credit history, which could be beneficial to you later in life if you need to buy a house or something. I wish Costco accepted MasterCard. I do too, but right now we're getting 4% back with the Citi card anyway, so it's no big deal. Tiered rewards dependent on savings balance. Oh, that would be interesting. I could see that making sense, where it's like the more money you have in the savings account, then they can make more money off of you because they use that money to issue out loans. So maybe they give you better perks if you store more money with them. That's probably something other banks have done before, but Apple's just very chill about everything right now. They're just like, oh, there's no fees, there's no minimums, you can deposit as much as you want. And if you look around in the banking industry at other high-interest savings accounts, they're usually not that chill. They usually have certain requirements. They're usually like, you have to put in this much money at least, or you have to deposit this much per month, and then you qualify for the high interest. Whereas Apple's kind of like, nah, put in as much as you want, no big deal. You can set up the Apple Card to be auto-paid with Apple's savings account. I've been doing it since the savings account launched. I haven't figured out how to do that, but honestly, I don't want to do it anyway, because I would rather most of my cash stay in the savings. At least right now, little personal reveal, most of my cash is in the high interest savings account, and I usually don't pull much out of it, because my cash, if I have to store it somewhere, makes a lot more money in that account than it does in a checking account. Obviously, it's not going to make as much as like a high yield mutual fund, which we have a ton of money in investments, but that's not cash. That's a different story. Investments have the chance of going down. So you typically, if you need money to access quickly for life events or general expenses or emergencies, in those cases, you don't want to put that in the stock market because in the short term, stocks do this. For long-term storage, if you have a bunch of money that you're like, okay, I don't need to access this for a long time, that makes sense to put into a mutual fund, because maybe in the short term it'll go down or up, depending on how the economy's doing that day. But long term, it should slowly increase. This is not investment advice. I'm just telling you what I've done. Oh, people are calling. 1 second. I think I have to answer this. It's just health insurance stuff. Nothing interesting. Sorry. All this life stuff. I find it weird the Apple Card never went internationally, not even Canada. I think it is a legal thing. It's definitely not a software limitation. There's different banks. I think Goldman Sachs is based in the U.S., but there's different regulations and different requirements, and transactions work differently overseas and stuff. Um, to watch your video, saw the time content go from quantity straight over quality. Good work. Thank you. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Um, Transferred over to the new credit card. I don't think the card is going to be cut out completely, just transferred to likely Amex. Their high income customers match Apple's high end. Yeah, but I don't think if they do, I don't think the rewards are going to stay the same. I think they're going to have to change it because Amex is profitable because of their points reward system. They've structured the card differently than the Apple Card. Um, and the ringer's on currently. It's helpful when you're recording stuff to actually get the sound when you. Um, that's a because I was recording a video earlier. Sometimes if something goes wrong, the iPhone will stop recording, and if you're talking to the rear-facing camera, you won't hear it. It'll just stop, which is really dangerous. So I was just recording videos before I went live, and that's why I had the ringer on. Normally it would be off. I know. The rewards I don't think will stay the same. So while the Apple Card might get a new partner, I have a feeling it will lose a lot of its desirability. I kind of like the idea, though, of them just requiring a higher amount in the savings account, because then they have more money they could lend out. Will Goldman Sachs keep the card until 2030? No. That's basically the announcement. The announcement is that, and this is confirmed, by the way, this is not a rumor, this is not a leak. This is a statement made by Apple, which is that their partnership with Goldman Sachs will end within the next 12 to 15 months. But what that means for the Apple Card, they're not entirely clear. It could mean that the Apple Card gets scrapped entirely, or it will have to find a new banking partner, which the rumors are saying Amex, which I think Amex would definitely require the perks and the rewards of the card to change, or Apple becomes their own bank, and that would be kind of fascinating, but it would be a big legal loophole, and they'd have to jump through all these extra hoops. So I would be pretty surprised if Apple became their own bank. I want them to, but I don't think they will. Let's see. What is going to happen to people who already have Apple Cards? Will they be canceled? Well, yeah, obviously, a ton of people have Apple Cards. If in the event that they can't find a new banking partner to replace Goldman Sachs, then I imagine they would probably give you a big heads up. I doubt it would be like, tomorrow your credit card's going to stop working. That would confuse people. They're probably going to send you reminders and emails and notices for a while that like, hey, if they decide not to keep it around, they'll say, in 6 months, your Apple Card is going to stop working. We're going to transfer all the daily cash or your savings account money to whatever bank account is on file. And basically, after a certain date, the credit card will just, it won't work. You could try to use it somewhere, but it just wouldn't be active. In the iOS app, it'll probably just disappear, but you'll still have the physical card, but it'll just get declined every time you try to use it. E-waste, I guess. Free titanium everywhere. They're going to partner with Silicon Valley Bank. Oh, what a great idea. My Tesla media player is saying the title is Will V-God. Oh, yeah, because I typed the Apple character. It ticks off a lot of people, but usually what's funny is the videos when I use the Apple symbol perform better, which is ironic. I think people like pointing out that they can't see it on their screen, so it creates more engagement for some reason. Will Tesla media... Let's see. What if I have a balance of like $2,000 that I don't have any plans on paying? You think they'll be on the lookout for me? Oh, that's a great question. I didn't even think of that. What happens if you rack up a huge balance like right before it goes out? Okay, first of all, don't get your hopes up. That doesn't mean you're going to get free money at the end of this. That's not that's not going to happen. They might push it to a different agency. I don't know how that works, honestly. Maybe it's MasterCard who would come after you. Maybe it's Goldman Sachs. But yeah, I'm sure that it would get pushed to collections in some way. But yeah, that's actually going to be quite the headache. They're going to require... Well, I mean, they have a bank account on file, right? If you have an Apple Card, that means you have to have a bank account connected of some kind. A checking account, maybe. And whatever the balance is of the credit card, they're probably just going to charge the checking account for that much. And if your checking account doesn't have enough, then that's going to be on the bank. And the bank is the bank that has your checking account will then say, hey, you overcharged your checking account, you overdrew how much money, and then the bank will come after you. So maybe they'll do something like that. But definitely don't think this means you're going to get a bunch of free money. I feel bad if that's what you think is going to happen, but yeah, they'll definitely be on. Someone will come after you if you try to rack up the credit card right before it shuts off. M1 Finance, for example, has a rough time and have the licensing required. That's funny you said M1. I went with Amex Gold because it's groceries and restaurants. Get about $60 back per month buying stuff I buy anyway. That's good. That's good. But it's usually through like a points thing. Is Amex even a traditional bank? I guess not, in the fact that like they don't necessarily, store large amounts. What's going on with the Apple Card? Well, basically, it might be dying for those who just showed up. Apple issued a statement to Wall Street Journal and NBC yesterday, which is that they're ending their partnership with Goldman Sachs, which either means that the Apple Card and the savings account are going to be killed off, or they're going to have to find a new banking partner, and the new banking partner will probably not agree to the same terms and conditions, which means the interest rates of the savings account and the rewards of the daily cash are probably not going to be as good, or are going to have more fine print attached, and they're going to have to play some more complicated games. They can't auto charge your account, most likely. They'll turn you over to collections. There's some banks that it's possible, like if you put something on there that it pushes you into the negative. I've had that happen to friends before. It depends on the bank, but do you think they would have to change the process for Apple monthly installments for paying for Apple products? Yeah, probably. They might still offer 0% finance. Honestly, just as a reminder, they offered 0% financing before the Apple Card. It was just through different banks. They would just pick a credit card to partner with, and then would say, okay, if you buy your Apple product through this credit card now, you get 0%. So they did that before the Apple Card. Now, of course, they do it with the Apple Card because it's Apple's. But yeah, it's just kind of a shame that they couldn't find a way to make this work. I obviously wanted it to come to other countries. I wanted it to spread internationally, and they just couldn't make it work. Better dust off my Discover card. Honestly, as of lately, with my Citi card, which I'm not a huge fan of, I mean, the rewards are good, but everything else about it sucks. Like, for one, it's not daily cash. So you rack up rewards on the Citi card, but you only get to access them once a year. So you use the credit card and a year goes by, and then they send you a check or they wire you the money for all the rewards you racked up within a year, so it takes longer to see the return. And then on top of that, the account management sucked. Getting the cards activated was annoyingly complicated. They made it more complicated than it needed to be. The account management stuff is more confusing and annoying than the Apple Card is. Of course, you have to set up another app, another account, instead of just doing it through the Apple ID, which you already have. So all of the management surrounding it is very annoying, and I'm not that interested in. But rewards-wise, it's pretty good because we get 4% back at Costco, we get 3% back at restaurants, and everything else is, I guess, just kind of a fun bonus. Can I charge the Tesla phone with the supercharger? Yeah. Tesla phone will be the first phone with NACS. Wow, 25 months of support, Kevin. Thank you so much. Is anyone else here waiting for Apple to come out with a Fold, or is that audience surprisingly smaller than I imagined? Yeah, I think the tech community thinks it's a bigger market than it really is. I still want them to make one, don't get me wrong. I would love it if Apple made a folding phone. Not because I necessarily want one, just because I think that smartphones and Apple in general is just kind of boring and repetitive. So that's why I'm excited for Vision OS. Not necessarily Vision Pro. The first generation headset I don't think is that interesting or that important, but the future implications of Vision OS and the future of what a more holographic-based operating system looks like, that excites me because it's just Apple going into a new region, and I'm kind of not sick, but I'm just kind of tired of all of the refinement in categories. It's just like, okay, slightly faster MacBook, okay, slightly brighter display on an iPhone, slightly better camera. It's all just kind of refinement. Nothing's that different. It's not that exciting anymore. What excites me more is things like the Aptera, which I got to test drive a couple days ago. Very fun. Please check out that video on Tailosive EV if you haven't yet. It was just a blast getting to talk with I did an interview with the CEO and the chief of design. That should be up soon in the next few days. That's kind of like cutting edge technology that I think is actually like game changing. That's exciting and like makes me feel like I'm living in the future, seeing new vehicles like that with such radical new designs that unlock so much possibilities. I don't get excited for a folding phone. I don't get excited for a slightly better Apple Watch or a slightly slimmer bezel on an iPad. That kind of stuff is just refinement upon tech that's already been around for a while. We updated the camera. I haven't checked out the Fisker Ocean, mostly because nothing about it looks that interesting. It's just another electric SUV, and we have a million of those. The Aptera is not like any other EV. Alex H., thank you for the super chat. In the scenario, Apple Card stops completely, what would compensate or reimbursement for us Apple Card users look like from Apple? Why do you assume that they have to compensate you or reimburse you? This is a service they're providing now that makes us free money, and they're probably just going to stop providing that service. I mean, it would be cool if they decided to like compensate for the cancellation by giving us some as an apology, we'll give you $100. I don't think the Apple Pay cash card will go anywhere because you still need that for it doesn't rely on Goldman Sachs for one, and it also still is required for iMessage money sending. So they'll just say, we're going to send you a $100 Apple gift card. Sorry for canceling the Apple Card. What will I do if the Apple Card gets canceled? I definitely don't want more credit cards. So I guess I would just start using the Citi card for everything. The rewards for basic stuff like utilities are not that different. I already kind of don't like how many credit cards we have. I'm not the kind of guy that wants like 15 different credit cards. It's just too much to manage, and cashback is nice, but it's definitely not like life-changing income. Like, oh, I got to switch to this credit card so I get 2% on utilities instead of 1%. That way I'll make an extra $5 a month. It's like, okay, it's $5. What's the big deal? So, yeah, I don't think I'll get another one. I'd probably just rely on my Costco Citi card for everything. Marngel, thank you for 27 months of support. Jeez, my mom is considering getting the Apple Card. Is it still a good idea for her to get one despite the news with it? Just let her know, I guess. on one hand, you could argue that, hey, well, it's out now and it works great, so enjoy it while it lasts. But honestly, if your mom cares at all about her credit score, it's probably not a good idea. This is not investment advice, and I don't even know if how this affects your credit score technically. But there's a chance that if Apple decides to shut down the Apple Card entirely, that will affect the average length of ownership for your credit lines. And that is a variable that goes into your credit score. So if you open up an Apple Card and then a month later they kill it off, that's going to show, hey, you opened up a line of credit and then you closed it a month later. So your average length of credit line history goes down a lot. I don't think it would necessarily tank your credit score, but it might be something to consider. It might be something to be aware of. Honestly, just thinking about the concept of it lowering your length of ownership for credit cards because now you're technically ending a credit line, that might be motivation enough for Apple to not kill it off. Just saying that out loud recently, just now, has made me go, you know what? They're probably not going to kill it off, but they will probably change the rewards to make it less compelling. Do I recommend moving Apple savings funds elsewhere? I mean, not today. Obviously, if they shut down the whole thing, then yeah, probably you should move it. But while it's there, it's still building interest. I should get my interest payment tomorrow, which I'm excited for. It should be over $50 just shows up for fun. That's kind of cool. The score won't care about the reason your score will get lower. True. That's in the event that they cancel it, which is why I'm pretty confident they won't cancel it, but they might just make it a lot less desirable, which, I don't know, maybe that creates a new problem because it's like, okay, if the rewards aren't as good and it's not as desirable, then less people are going to use it for things, and then Amex or whoever the next bank isn't going to make as much money off of it, so they're going to want to cancel it again too, and then we'll be in this exact same situation we're in for Goldman Sachs. Kino Reviews, thank you for the super chat. Apple Card new perk idea, 12, 18, or 24-month interest-free financing similar to Best Buy Card. That's great for the consumer, but the problem companies are having with the Apple Card is that it doesn't make them any money because lending out money like that and offering interest-free financing costs the bank money. They have to loan out money and they're getting nothing in return from it. So I can think of nice perks for end users all day. That's the easy part. Why not make it 36 months? Make it 48th month free financing. The tricky part is figuring out how to make perks and how do they take advantage of how customers take advantage of the reward system so that the bank can somehow get some money out of it. Rick says, yeah, you typically never want to close a credit line. It's not the end of the world. I've done it. I had a Wells Fargo credit card when I just turned, I think I had like one of those starter credit cards. I can't remember how old I was. I remember getting it when I was like 16 or 18. I was young. I was a teenager and I got my first credit card through Wells Fargo. They had some program where it was like, you can build your credit early. I don't remember how old I was, but I was young and I had a credit card. The credit limit was not very big, obviously, because it's a kid using it. And then it was okay. It wasn't a fancy credit card, but it was like 1.5% cash back when you used Apple Pay. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to use Apple Pay. So I used that for a while, but you could only redeem the rewards once they got over like $25. So I had to, and the credit limit was like less than $2,000. So I had to rack up a lot of, rewards through that card before I could actually access the funds, which is kind of the same story with the, what was I saying? It's kind of the same story with the Citi card. Yeah, I only get the payouts of the rewards once a year, which is probably which is probably better for the bank, and that's why Apple Card is losing so much, is because they don't get to hold any of those rewards. The next day, they just send the money right back. Those aren't even legal anymore. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know I had an illegal credit card. Am I going to do a 4-year review of Apple Card? This is kind of it. I don't know what else to say other than what I'm kind of saying right now. Do I think the $25,000 Tesla car will be the 2-seater shown in the book? I talked to the, I don't know if I can talk about that. Probably not, but I hope it does because I loved the two-seater in the book. I love that design, and I really want a hyper efficient small um, electric vehicle because most of my driving is usually just me or just me and my wife, and we're hauling around all this extra mass and using up all this extra energy that we don't need to. So yeah, I hope that exists, but it probably won't be that. I also don't think we're going to see the robo-taxi for a long time. I don't think it's going to be ready for a minute, especially because Giga Mexico was supposed to be the first place to make them, and then that's been delayed and that's been pushed back a lot. And now Giga Berlin is probably going to be the first place making the next generation vehicle platform. And Europe is not very friendly when it comes to autonomous driving software, so I don't think it's going to be the robo-taxi. If they do build one there, probably start off with a manual driving vehicle that would just be like a compact. But um, or at the time, I had my first credit card at 14, and now I can't do that now. That's funny that they changed their mind on that. Would Apple's brand power alone be enough to get the Apple Card perks on their terms if they were to negotiate with Amex, for example, as the new issuer? I don't think so, because, I mean, brand power has a certain amount of coolness to it, but at a certain point, it's not worth it, which is what Goldman Sachs has discovered. And now the cat's out of the bag, the elephant's in the room. Apple's probably shopping around banks right now. Apple's probably looking around, okay, what banks want to work with us? And all of these banks are going to be asking Apple, okay, why did Goldman Sachs leave you guys? And they're going to have to say, well, Goldman Sachs left because they were losing billions of dollars on this program. Would you like to lose billions of dollars on this program? So every bank is going to be like, no, I don't think so. So finding someone that's willing to do it is probably going to come with some strings attached. If it is Amex, I'm guessing Amex is going to be like, yeah, we'll do it, but we don't like your daily cash system. We don't like the no fees, no minimums. Honestly, okay, here's my pitch. You guys want to hear my suggestion, my idea? I think Apple should convert the Apple. Maybe some of you won't like this. This is probably going to be a little. I'm thinking more from the business's perspective here, not necessarily what's the best for the consumer. There might be some legal issues with this, but I say they slowly transition the Apple Card into more of a tier 3, tier 4 credit card. It turns into a paid membership where like there's an annual fee that goes with it. And they could try to incentivize the fee, there's an annual fee, but you get a new iPhone to go with it. But there's a fee to pay to access the card, but then the rewards get a bit better, but at least they have some real income coming in from it. So there's still some points they could do or rewards they could do, but you still have a flat fee that you have to pay to access the card every year. And if you don't want to access that fee, then the credit card it functions, but the rewards aren't that great. That would be an interesting concept because I've been pushing for like a matte black Apple Card Plus, Apple Card Pro for a while, where there's an annual fee, but you get much better rewards out of it. That's just an idea. Maybe we can figure it out, but I got to get going now, guys. I know it's not the longest stream, but I've got friends I'm hanging out with that just got back, so there you go. $200 annual fee. You get Apple Care Plus included on all devices. That's a great idea because it sounds good and it only matters if you break the device. I like where your head is at. It might turn into a paid credit card, but I appreciate you all for the super chats and for watching. Hang in there. Stay tuned on Tailosive EV for a lot more videos coming out. But for tech, just kind of relax. There's not much tech news at the moment anyway. So, last message from Simply Sora. But are credit cards worth it? I'm 21 and know nothing. Only ever hear not use them aside from like cars or things like that. And yay, 17. Yeah, if you know, Margel suggested that earlier. I give you credit, Margel. If you know how to manage them and you don't spend more than you have, then yes, I think credit cards they're worth it. They're a great way to get some free perks, some free rewards, and build your credit history, which can be good if you buy a house someday. That's pretty much the only situation in which I recommend taking out a loan. Not investment advice, but yeah, you just get some free money out of it if you go with a cheap credit card that doesn't have any fees. If you know how to manage yourself and you can contain your spending, the dangerous part of credit cards is you can theoretically spend more than you have, which I don't recommend. Don't carry balances on your credit cards. I've never had to pay interest on any of my credit cards. That's, I think, the right way to use them. I would not carry a balance on a credit card. If you're wanting a credit card so you can buy something you can't afford, then I think you shouldn't have one. You're doing it wrong. But thank you all for your support, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Bye bye.